This is the biggest lie about eating sugar that is stalling your fat loss results.
Every single time you put sugar in your mouth, even if it's 1 grain of sugar, the pH in your mouth falls to -5, so it becomes acidic.
If you stopped eating sugar for 2 weeks, this is what would happen. You're gonna lose your craving for sugar. You'll be able to go longer without food.
You really wanna feel better? Try this. 7 days, no sugars. That means no candy, no sodas, no ice cream, no cookies, no chocolate, no caramel, no donuts, no cakes.
What would happen if you gave up sugar for 2 weeks? The first thing that you would notice is the shape of your face would change. It would go from being roundish and puffish to a thinner face.
As you can see, there's no shortage of people on social media telling you that sugar should be avoided at all costs. But in my 12 years of experience as a registered dietitian, there's one lie about sugar that gets in the way of losing weight for countless men and women, particularly dads, who is who I work with the most. It's time to stop listening to outdated and misleading guidance when it comes down to sugar intake and instead understand what actually happens to your body when you eat sugar. In this video, I'm going to debunk the big lie you've been told about sugar, and the surprising truth I reveal could be the secret to finally reaching your weight loss goals. So make sure you keep watching. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's Andres here. And this week, our video, it's all about sugar, weight loss, and the nutrition changes that you need to be making if you want to start seeing results. First, a quick introduction. If you don't know who I am, my name is Andres Ayesta. I'm a registered dietitian. I work with guys mostly over the age of 30, mostly dads, to help them gain muscle, drop fat, and build a lean, strong body that they feel proud of. I mainly work with dads because, well, I'm a dad myself, and I understand the unique struggles that come with staying fit during this stage of your life. So if that sounds like you and you are not subscribed yet, make sure you hit the button below and also tap that little bell icon to get notified when my new videos go live every single week. If you're a wife of a dad, then this is something you can send over to him. Now let's get into this week's topic, which is all about what happens when you eat sugar, how it affects your body and your weight. And as I mentioned, I'm going to debunk the biggest lie about eating sugar that's probably getting in the way of your results. Now, before I get into today's video, I want to make it very clear that I'm not here to promote heavy sugar consumption. Most people are eating way too much sugar and they would totally benefit from cutting back. But my goal today is to share the science around sugar and explain why it can be detrimental to your goals, but also why there's so much unnecessary fear mongering around it. So for starters, let's chat in super simple terms about what actually happens to your body when you eat sugar. We're going to call this section Sugar 101. When I talk about sugar, and what you probably think of when I say the word sugar is what's known as simple or refined sugar. These are sugars that have been processed and stripped of any nutrients like fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Refined sugars are then used to make up table sugar, syrups, and they're added to processed foods like sodas and baked goods. But the process of what happens in the body when you eat sugar is actually true for all carbohydrates. Newsflash, sugar is a type of carbohydrate. When you eat carbs, they travel down your stomach and then they go into your small intestine where they are broken down into glucose, which is the very single unit that your body actually uses. The glucose is then absorbed from your small intestine into your bloodstream, which causes your blood sugar levels to rise. In response, your pancreas releases something known as insulin, which you have heard about, and it's a hormone that allows your cells to absorb glucose from the blood to use up for energy or to be stored as glycogen. Think about insulin as this messenger that goes and knock on the doors of your cells so they can open up the doors so that glucose or sugar that is sitting in your bloodstream can actually go into the cells and not stay floating around, because you need to maintain a certain level of blood sugar that is considered normal. So when insulin comes into the cells and knocks the door and says, hey, sugar is a little bit too high, we need it to come back down, can you please allow some to come in? As I said, this happens The same way for all carbs, because all carbs are broken down into that very single unit. But where we see the difference is in how fast a carb source is broken down and how quickly it causes your blood sugar levels to rise. If you have complex carbs like whole grains and vegetables, these contain fiber, which is another type of carb, and it slows down the process of digestion and absorption, so you don't get that huge blood sugar spike. So instead of getting a big dump, you're getting kind of like a very slow release. On the other hand, when you eat simple sugars, they're digested very, very quickly, and that's actually what causes a spike in blood sugar because you have a big dump. This rapid rise in blood sugar makes your body release a lot of insulin at once, and the problem with this is that the big spikes can lead to big crashes as well, which leave you feeling tired, hungry, and craving more, because everything that goes up also needs to come down, particularly when the magnitude of that upswing needs to obviously come in the same level. Over time, if this happens a lot, it can mess up with your body's ability to use insulin properly. Insulin resistance is a condition where the body's cells become less responsive to insulin, and as a result, the pancreas produces more insulin to compensate, leading to higher levels of insulin in the blood. I want you to think about this in the same analogy that I use is insulin is the one responsible for knocking the doors in the cells. Well, eventually in insulin resistance, they knock on the door, but then it's like they're ringing the doorbell and they're really knocking hard, but then the cell cannot really hear it. So they send more people to knock on the door and it's still not happening. Now, what ends up happening is it causes your blood sugar levels to rise and they stay higher in your blood, eventually leading to issues like high blood sugar, prediabetes, and eventually type 2 diabetes if it's not managed properly. So how does this relate to weight gain? Well, this brings us to an important conversation about something called the insulin carb model of obesity. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into this today because it's a pretty complex and controversial topic, but I do want to mention it briefly because it's a common argument you'll hear from people promoting low carb, low sugar, ketogenic diets, and all the things in between. Basically, the theory behind this model is that diets that are high in carbs cause weight gain because they elevate your insulin secretion, and insulin directs energy in the form of calories to be stored as excess fat rather than being used by tissues for energy. As a result, hunger increases and metabolism is suppressed, which leads to weight gain. Now, while we know that frequent glucose spikes and excessive insulin production have negative consequences, many researchers and experts argue that this model is oversimplified and a low-carb diet is not the answer when it's really coming down to weight loss. In fact, when looking at the data between low-carb and low-fat diets, which tend to be typically higher carb when you're looking at those low-fat diets, the consensus, and I'm going to explain a little bit this more in detail, is that as long as calories are restricted, both will yield similar results regardless of whether it's low-carb or low-fat. Now, there are two key criticisms of this model. One is that calories still matter. A major issue is that this model overlooks the role of calorie intake in promoting weight gain. Studies have shown that weight loss can occur on both low carb and high carb diets as long as there is a calorie deficit, which suggests that the total calorie intake is more important than the insulin spikes alone. There's a really interesting guy, he's a researcher that did a really cool, interesting self-study. He called it the Twinkie diet. He ate Twinkies for 3 months and he said, I'm gonna lose weight eating Twinkies every day. The guy lost about 25 pounds doing that. It makes me sick to my stomach to think that that's actually all he ate. But he wanted to prove that as long as he maintained a calorie deficit, he could lose weight, and he did, eating Twinkies, which are filled with sugar, by the way. Now, I'm not telling you to go and eat Twinkies, but I'm trying to explain the principle that no matter the type of dietary approach, this is a condition that needs to be met. Now, the second key criticism is that obesity is complex. It's influenced by a ton of different factors beyond just insulin, including things like your genetics, your physical activity, your gut microbiome, your environment, lifestyle factors like sleep and stress. And the insulin carb model blames everything on insulin, and it doesn't really account for these other variables that play a really major role in weight regulation. Now, this all gets pretty complicated when you dive into the research on it, so I want to bring this back to what actually matters for you, and that is how you should be managing your diet when your goal is fat loss. First, if you want to lose weight, you need to be eating in a calorie deficit. We're all in agreement with that. This means consuming fewer calories than your body burns every day. Tracking your calories and macronutrients can be a helpful tool to help you do that, not a necessary tool. I talk a lot about that process in other videos, so I'm going to link a couple of those in the description if you want to go and watch them. Once that calorie deficiency state is in place, you're going to lose weight. And you can technically achieve that by following any diet, but certain nutrition habits, like high protein and high fiber meals, are going to make it easier to stay in that calorie deficit. The way that we manage sugar intake has the overall goal of helping you maintain that calorie deficit. I'll explain what I mean by that. Like, one of the main issues with sugar is that it adds calories to your diet without adding any nutrients or making you feel like full or satisfied. This means that if you eat a lot of sugar, it's very easy to go over your calorie goals for weight loss without feeling full and without giving your body the nutrients that it needs. Basically, it takes up space in your calorie budget, but it doesn't really give you any real value besides enjoyment that you get when you eat it. It's kind of like alcohol in a way. The other issue is that when you eat sugar on its own and you get those blood sugar spikes I talked about before, that can cause cravings for more sugary food, which again can cause you to overshoot your calorie goal and also has a number of other negative health effects. So when we look at sugar intake, we want to first look at the quantity you're eating each day and also the full context of your diet as a whole. If we're looking at recommendations and the standards right now in the United States, like the current recommendations from the American Heart Association tells us that men should consume no more than 9 teaspoons, which is about 36 grams or 150 calories of added sugar per day. For women, it's no more than 6 teaspoons or 25 grams or 100 calories per day. Now, I don't get too lost on like the minimums and the maximums. I honestly feel like if you have a diet the way that I teach it inside of our programs, you don't even need to be paying attention to this, and you're going to notice that you're not even close to that. This recommendation refers to added sugar, but I want to make an important note that this is also including everything that is considered a free sugar. In making this video, I didn't even realize that this was actually a term. There's a lot of confusion around this, so I want to make it clear, or I want to just kind of clear things up a little bit with some definitions. Natural sugars are sugars naturally found in whole foods like fruits, vegetables, and dairy. These kinds of sugars come packaged with fiber, vitamins, and minerals, which slow down digestion and provide health benefits. Now, refined sugars, as I mentioned before, they're originally taken from natural sources and they're processed to have their nutrients stripped away, and they don't really offer any nutritional value beyond just calories. And then you have free sugars, which is a broader category that includes refined sugars, but also includes sugars that are naturally present in honey, syrups, and fruit juices. I'm talking about natural fruit juices. Unlike natural sugars in whole fruits or milk, free sugars can lead to a very rapid spike in blood sugar levels. Many people will choose things like maple syrup or honey or agave syrup as alternatives to white sugar, or they'll drink pure fruit juice as a healthy drink, but these foods actually have the same effect on spiking your blood sugars as white table sugar or candy. Now, I know there's a bit of a differences when it comes on to honey and different types of agave, but yet it's still considered a sugar. They all have the same amount of calories regardless of what color or where it comes from. So sugar isn't really bringing anything to the table in terms of nutritional value, although they do provide energy as in itself. But this is where I want to get to the biggest lie about sugar that gets in the way of weight loss progress. Many coaches, dietitians, and experts will tell you that you should cut out all sugar if you want to be healthy and reach your goals. They completely demonize sugar and cause people to fear it. And I get it. Not only is this not true, but it might actually be good for you to include some, I'm going to underline that, some sugar in your diet. Let me explain why. Because this is the key lesson that I want you to take away from this video. It's true that from a purely nutrition standpoint, sugar really isn't offering you anything at all. And too much is definitely going to be detrimental for you. But not every food we eat is only for the purpose of meeting our nutritional needs. We're human. And I think any coach who's telling you that you shouldn't have a slice of birthday cake or go out for ice cream with your family on a hot day is doing you a massive disservice. What I typically see happening when someone tells themselves that they're not allowed to eat any of a specific food or food group is that they suddenly find themselves craving that thing so much more. It's just how our brains work. So if you tell yourself you're not going to allow yourself to have any sugar, you might be able to use willpower to avoid sugar for a while. But what happens when you restrict yourself so much of something that you desperately want or eventually like to have? A stressful day comes around or a dessert looks super tempting and you're going to break your rule and have some. The problem is that it's not some, because instantly that triggers guilt, and oftentimes people will overeat that sugary food and tell themselves they'll be perfect tomorrow, but they completely overblow it. Then the pattern repeats itself and you never reach your goals. I personally eat dessert every single day, and it's on purpose. Sometimes it's a healthier option like a lower sugar, high protein treat, and other days it's just a regular brownie or a cookie or a piece of chocolate. Because I don't ban these foods from my diet, they don't have the mental labels or the dichotomy of good and bad, and they've lost all the negative emotions that are tied to them for many people. When you adopt this mindset, you can look at these foods more objectively and see how they can easily fit into your day along with a lot of other nutrient-dense foods. And that's honestly honestly the biggest secret about sugar, guys. It is not a problem if you enjoy a bit of sugar in the context of a balanced diet, because there's a huge difference between someone who has a diet full of veggies and protein and that's one cookie versus someone who eats cookies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A lot of people on social media will try to make this black or white, but it's not. It's controversial, and it often feels easier to follow a diet plan where there are strict rules because it's what sounds better. But excessive restriction almost always backfires, and a true balanced diet with a good relationship with food is kind of found in the gray area, and people, I guess, like don't really like to be in between. Overall, you want to prioritize a high protein diet with plenty of fiber, color, and complex carbs. Then, when you're having sugar, it can be helpful to pair it up with a source of protein or have it at the end of a meal or dessert to help slow its digestion and reduce that blood sugar spike. And again, if weight loss is your goal, keeping track of your overall calorie intake and maintaining that calorie deficit, it's what's going to get you to your goals. Whew, I can breathe now, but I think that's a good place for us to end here today. Thank you so much again for tuning into this video, and if you made it this far, I hope that I give you some valuable insights that you can start to put into action into your life and maybe feel less restricted in your diet while getting great results. If you have any questions, comments, even hate comments about this topic, drop a comment. I welcome everything, and just let me know. Now, I'm going to say something important, and I'm not speaking to every single person in this video. I do understand some people get triggered with sugar, and there's very, very complex conversations that need to be had around that. I'm talking in broad strokes and broad terms because I think that's just what I think would help most people. But if you have questions or there's anything specific you'd like to discuss, again, drop the comments. I open that up for conversation. This message is a complete ad. Shamelessly, I'm going to plug myself in here because what I do is I help people and people pay me the big bucks to do that. I'm not gonna lie. But if you're interested in this, if you're a dad who's ready to take control of your health, you wanna get fit, you wanna have a strong body, the one that you've always wanted, maybe parenthood has not been easy for you and you kind of like, put your health in the wayside and you don't really want to do anything like fat diets and all that kind of crazy stuff, then I got something that I think could be a big game changer for you. And I want to invite you to actually check it out. It's my free Fit Dads webinar where I walk you through exactly how to shed fat and keep it off long term without sacrificing your favorite foods. It's literally the same system. It's a 3-step system that I've taught a lot of my clients, specifically dads. And honestly, when you talk to most of them, they kept the weight off. So I think it was pretty successful. Head down to the description below, click the link and sign up for that free webinar. And I promise it's going to be packed with actionable strategies that you can start using right away. Now, if you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos coming next. I'll see you back here for next week's video. Take care and have a good rest of your week.